at the deepest level, it can feel like you're actually dying. That's required to break a pattern if you want exponential results.
And mental health days make me feel bad because I waste time. That's me in a nutshell.
I use the 80% rule. If you ever want to be world class at anything, you have to enjoy what it is you're doing. Something that you do not absolutely love the process of doing, you won't be world class at it. You'll just be copying what other people are doing.
All right, it's time to elevate your life. Answer your questions directly. This is the Full Stack Response. That's Mike. I'm Ted. Right off the bat, I'm going to take the first question for this one, Mike. Ikigai on your hat. I love it, but for anybody that's not familiar with Ikigai, what does that mean, man?
Ikigai is a Japanese term that is basically describing how to live a fulfilled life. So it's a Venn diagram, basically, where you end up with what it is. Let's see if I can remember all of it. What it is I like to do, what I'm good at, what others need, and there's a fourth one. Do you know what it is?
What you get
Makes
paid
money.
for.
You get paid for it. And where those cross over, that's Ikigai. And yeah, the idea is that you can live a very satisfied life if you check all those boxes. I find most people will sacrifice the other three, or they'll just do what they're good at and the money, but they have some belief that they can't get paid doing the thing they love to do as well. Mm-hmm. And if you ever want to be world class at anything, which I know I have always considered myself somebody who is trying to be world class at whatever it is I'm doing, you have to enjoy what it is you're doing. To try to be world class at something that you do not absolutely love the process of doing, you're likely you won't be world class at it. You'll just be copying what other people are doing. So whatever you're going to be world class at, you have to be uniquely expressing yourself.
I almost see that in all high performers. And the question I would ask people is soccer hard for Cristiano Ronaldo, right? Or is driving an F1 vehicle hard for Lewis Hamilton? Sure, they're extremely good at it. And obviously the competition side of things might be difficult, but you put Lewis Hamilton behind the wheel, he could drive that thing, no problem. You put a soccer ball in front of Cristiano Ronaldo, the process of playing soccer is easy because it was a game and something that he enjoys and loves, yet we watch in awe, and the guy gets paid very handsomely to do it.
I saw a video the other day. I follow this Instagram account. Predictive History is the name of the Instagram account. And there's this guy, and he's basically telling you how school, like traditional school, kills your creativity, because it really trains you to be in this box, and it also creates a competitive environment. Mm-hmm. So that you're comparing, you have to turn everyone into apples, or you have to turn everyone into oranges in order to be able to compare them. But I might be a cherry, bro. So, but I could be in school thinking that trying to compete with apples when I'm really a cherry. And I think most people never discover the fruit they really are.
Isn't it so sad? It's so sad. That's a popular question for folks. If you walk into the grocery store, what produce item are you?
Yeah.
Like
I just made that one up. I'm gonna keep running with that. I think the apples and oranges, it's a common term. We'll roll with it.
I love it. Well, jumping into the questions, because I do want to answer some of the questions that we were able to curate for today. I mean, this goes hand in hand with what you're talking about. For anybody whose creativity might have been stifled, they're not operating in their Ikigai because they're working just for the money, or perhaps they're on the opposite spectrum where they're doing something that they love, something that they're good at, but they're not making any money and people don't need it. So it's more of a hobby instead of something that could actually build a lifestyle. But this was in the subreddit Entrepreneur, and the question was based on how do I listen to my body without losing momentum. And it says, I struggle to balance pushing through versus listening to my body. How do you know when it's time to rest or when you're just avoiding discomfort? And this is one of those things that we go back and forth within our heads of like, am I being lazy or do I need the rest?
Yeah, I hear this one a lot. I also, which we'll do another show on this one, but is it fear or intuition? And which is also a really, there's a lot of nuance involved here. So I'm going to give you some answers on some, I'm going to give you a few different ways where you can test whether if you're hitting that wall, if you're working during the day and you hit that wall and you go, should I be pushing through or should I rest here? So I'm going to give you a few different tests to do. But before I get into that, I want to zoom out for a moment and say, okay, we have macro level and we have the micro level. So this question sounds like a micro level question. The person is really focused on in the moment. Like they're not questioning if they should be doing the work that they're doing. They're not questioning whether this is actually moving them towards where they want to be, even if the work they're doing is satisfying. And so I find that most people are in this category of trying to optimize what they're already doing instead of zooming out and questioning what is it that I'm doing. And so I see that I've seen this a lot in Silicon Valley, for instance. There's something that's happening that's really popular there, and it's called microdosing. If you've been paying attention to and reading any articles on productivity or performance in business, you're probably hip to the idea that there are executives in Silicon Valley who are microdosing with. And by the way, another popular one that's popped up is people microdosing cactus, which has in it, which is actually really nice. But what I've witnessed and people who are working in these jobs, I've interacted with a lot of them, is they're trying to sharpen the edge of doing something they dislike. Something's out of alignment, and they're trying to use this tool that's a really amazing, powerful tool to override the lack of alignment. And it'll work. It'll actually help you continue pushing through the lack of alignment. And a lot of people will say, well, that's what I'll do for now, but at some point I'll zoom out. When I get to, this point or that point, then I'll take a break. And then I'll examine my life a little more. But I want to have X amount of dollars in the bank account. I want to have this sense of security that maybe a home or an amount of money or some type of job security is present. It's kind of like fitness. I'll do it on Monday. It's Wednesday. I decide I'm going to change my life. No, you got to do it right now. So micro level and macro level. The macro level is whenever I've had people come to me wanting to microdose for performance, I then get to asking them, well, have you ever done a macro dose? Have you taken a big dose? Have you taken a big step away from your life and analyze things? So when we get this question, the question being, I struggle to balance between pushing through versus listening to my body. How do I know when it's time to rest and when it's avoiding discomfort? A big part of this is the only time you would have this question is if you're out of touch with your body. And so there's practices to do daily to help us stay tuned into our body. But you have to understand that people have been trained to avoid what their body, the signals of their body have done for their whole life. By the way, if you have any disease, if you have a rash, if your body is talking back to you in any way and it's getting really loud to where it's painful, that tells me you are ignoring the signal that your body's telling you, which means that you're out of touch with your body in some way, in which case you need to do one of these macro level resets. And so I'm going to go with like the big one. There's this one reset that is the most powerful for getting in touch with your body. And then if you do this macro reset, this question will become way less it won't be asked as often. And it's a Vipassana retreat. So I did one of these 2 years ago. It's a 10-day meditation retreat. You have your own dorm room. You don't talk to anybody. You don't make eye contact. You don't acknowledge anybody else. You don't open doors for other people. You're there with yourself. And you meditate 10 hours a day, an hour and a half to 2 hours at a time. You have little breaks in there. You can go for a walk. You minimize physical activity during this time, because in the Vipassana meditation, it's a body scan. You're scanning your body the whole time. And if you spend 100 hours in 10 days scanning your body, and by the way, by the end of it, I was scanning my body and meditating as I fell asleep. I would wake up, and by day 8, I was waking up in meditation. I was falling asleep in meditation. I was waking up in meditation. I was doing a walking meditation. I was eating in a meditative state. I was meditation by the end of the 10 days. Would you guess, Ted? Can you imagine that I would be in touch with my body at that point?
I feel like you don't have a choice.
You are so in touch with your body. And when you walk out, the signals become very loud. And so that is the epitome of a macro level reset. I've done 3-day meditation retreats. I've done 5-day emotional development retreats. I've done 10-day ceremonies and all this. I've taken these breaks, and all these macro level things have helped me to get in better touch with my body, and I understand the signals that are coming up. And I now know, oh, this is out of alignment. This is not out of alignment. And so I invite anyone who's asking this question to go do the macro level. If you choose to only go micro level, that's totally fine. And if you're like, okay, I'm going to sign up for one of these retreats in 3 months, but what do I do between now and then? Well, one is, in the moment, you can take a little reset. I imagine most people have done some type of body scan meditation. So to do a body scan meditation for 5 minutes, anyone can do it. You're not going to get nearly as deep. I mean, there's layers and layers and layers that you're going to get after 10 days. But if you stop and do a body scan meditation, then you're gonna feel where in your body is this coming from? Oh, is it coming up in my chest? Is it coming up in my shoulder? Is it coming up in my belly? You're gonna feel what you're looking for is, where do I feel a restriction? Because energy is moving, right? Your body's constantly metabolizing at an atomic level. You know, the molecules and the atoms, they're all moving all the time. And so if you practice stopping and doing a body scan, you may not get down to the atomic level 5 minutes at a time. You won't. But you'll start to notice some of the things that are less subtle that are right there on the surface. And you go, oh, okay. And really sitting with that and just noticing it, right? So that's one thing to do. And after 5 minutes of doing that, get back to work and then see how things feel. If you're still feeling like a drag, then take a break. Don't push through. If you check in and you feel through it and then you pop off, you're good to go. So that's the test number one. The next one to do after that, so is I felt into my experience. I notice where I'm feeling tension or resistance. We can call it either. Most people would probably say I feel tension there. And then you can ask yourself and journal, what about this feels familiar, or what's familiar about this? And so this is very different than trying to think your way in, because what we're doing is we're feeling our way in, because we're talking about a feeling. I feel fatigued. I feel tired. And so what's familiar about this? And then journal that out. you will likely, things will come up for you if you do that 5-minute meditation first before you journal. Things will come up for you that are surprising to your thinking mind, because the thinking mind isn't feeling, it's just thinking. Although it is being totally hijacked by what's happening in the feeling world, but it won't acknowledge it. It's not thinking, I'm feeling this. It will simply be driven by the feeling that's there, whether you're aware of the feeling or not. And this is why doing that body scan meditation first is really important.
Yeah.
And then lastly is you can do you can follow the 24-hour rule, where you can lock in for one more hour and say, you know what, I'm going to lock in for one more hour, and then go for, and then I'll see how I feel after that. You could lock in for an hour and then find your rhythm, and you go, oh, okay, there was just a moment of resistance that came up. I'm flowing through it now. Or after an hour, damn, I'm tired. Go for a walk, take a nap. We talked about this on the Mark Acosta Rubio show. Talked about the power of napping or going for a walk in order to get that eureka moment, to get that aha. And so a lot of times we're feeling resistance because we're stuck in a frame. We're stuck in the box, and we're not going to outthink the box. We got to get outside of the thinking mind in order to do that. A 30-minute walk, no input, no audiobook, no podcast, 30-minute walk. I do at least one 30-minute walk, sometimes two a day through my neighborhood. It totally resets everything. It cleans everything out. At least one of the first walk will be without any input. I do carry my phone so I can make voice notes if I need to. But follow the 24-hour rule. If you still feel resistance after an hour, then take that break and maybe just take the rest of the day off. So that's kind of like my 3 rules. And another thing that I do in general, I learned this in training when I was training to be a competitive athlete, and when I was coaching others, is I use the 80% rule. Is 80% of the days, so 4 out of 5 days, 4 out of 5 training sessions, or 4 out of 5 days I'm working, I should have 80% left in the tank. If I am pushing it to 100 every single day, then I'm going to run out of juice. So, for instance, I know that my Mondays and Tuesdays are pretty thick. I have a lot of meetings then. I love it. I probably am pushing it to like 90% on those days. I say every other week I'm getting 90%, but on Wednesdays, we record this podcast on Wednesdays generally. I take the morning off. And I basically have like a 50% day on Wednesdays. And then on Thursdays is like a 70% day. And then Friday is like a 70% day. If I were to say I got 90, 90, 50, 70, 70, I average that all out, I'm about 80%. And what that means is that when I need to go 100%, my 100% is available, and I'm sharp for 100%. Last week I pulled like an 11-hour day, and I was still sharp after 11 hours. But if I did 11 hours every day, I would be petering out after like 4 hours. So those are kind of like, I've got those 4 tests, the 5-minute meditation, the what's familiar about this, doing a 1 hour of work, and then seeing how you feel after that. And then big picture, the rule I run with is 80% most days of the week. And so if you do those things, you will get in greater touch with your body. You'll start thinking differently. You'll start seeing opportunities you didn't see before, because you'll be able to get outside of the box in how you think.
Yeah. No, that's valuable, because I'm learning a lot of this the hard way. I feel as though, like, for example, this question was my spirit animal asking it for me, because I am that person that overthinks everything. And there's this rapper Chica, she's got a line about I can't stop worrying about what people say about my waistline, and mental health days make me feel bad because I waste time. That's me in a nutshell. Those mental health days, it's like, okay, I need to rest the body. But then what comes afterwards is shame because of the programming of hustle, 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 hustle. And
Yeah.
if you stop, you're not pushing the needle forward. And I did the best I could, Mike, to outthink my mind. I couldn't do it. You can't do it. You can't outthink what's going on up here. So I had to go into the body, so much so. And the time we've spent together, I'm adopting more of that introspection of myself, where I'm in my car coming back. I had a hour and 45-minute car ride, pull the lever down on my Tesla, the thing's driving itself, and my mind again wants to play an audiobook or listen to a podcast, and get some knowledge here. Don't let this hour and 45 minutes go to waste. But for the first 45 to 50 minutes of that car ride, while the Tesla was driving itself, I kept my eyes on the road, but I just had my hands on the side, and I was just breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. And there was this level of calm that I haven't felt for a very long time. And then towards the end of the ride, as I was getting closer, called my wife and did some other things. But my reflection from that was like, I needed that. There was no shame, no disappointment. It was just letting the body rest and relax. And I was thankful for taking a moment to ask myself, what is it that I need here? Because I was so close to turning that whole car ride into another anxiety-ridden travel from point A to point B. So I was thankful to do that. And my wife will tell you, I'm already looking to carve out a solo trip for a 3-day reset. I might just need to look for a Vipassana retreat instead. That would be very advantageous to help me get in tune. But would you say a 72-hour reset for anybody who is looking for a macro reset themselves, would 72 hours be enough?
If you've never meditated longer than 5 minutes, doing 10 minutes is going to be a breakthrough. So, I've at the Vipassana retreat, I have many friends that have done it as well. And that's why I went and did it, is because I heard so many people talk about this. If people Google around and look up darkness retreats, there's 3-day darkness retreats, 7-day darkness retreats, similar thing happening there. At Vipassana, they're teaching you a very specific technique that was passed down by the Buddha. And so one of the Buddhas. And so the technique, I think, is something that if you go and learn that, then you'll take it into the rest of your life and it'll change your life forever. So there's two things. One is you talked about that shame and guilt that comes up when taking a break. That is a patterned response. And so one of the benefits of doing one of these macro resets is it gives you the opportunity to break the pattern. And after you've broken the pattern, you're then able to see it clearly. And then you can get to a place where you can make a choice about whether you're going to continue in that pattern or you're going to create something new in your life. And so if you choose not to break a pattern and you choose to not take a reset, and you're going to grind harder or do more of the pattern, and this is what most people do, they're going to improve in a linear fashion. They're going to get 1% better every month, right? Or every year. They're going to, and the point of diminishing returns is going to get bigger with every day that passes. So the reason the pattern was there in the first place is because it did give you a benefit early on, and you saw huge gains. Oh, I'm 10% better in a month. And then, so that then signals to your consciousness that we need to this pattern's working, let's keep it. But at some point, it'll start to reverse even. You'll start getting worse at whatever it is that you want to get better at. So that's a linear growth strategy. It's safe. The ego likes it. The nervous system likes it because it's there to conserve energy. It's a survival mechanism, but it's not a thrival mechanism. If you want exponential results, anyone we ask, do you want an exponential growth in your life? Absolutely. But it's going to require you to break a pattern that your nervous system is really tied to. And so at the deepest level, it can feel like you're actually dying. Your mind will make up stories that this is going to cause me to become homeless. This is going to get me kicked out of my community. This will, it will become death in some way. If you dig deep enough, you're going to find that. I found that several times. And this is the level of work that's required to break a pattern if you want exponential results, if you want exponential growth. If you don't want exponential growth, if you're fine with the path you're on and you want more of the same, then don't do that. But if you want exponential, then step outside the pattern. And taking that macro reset is going to give you that opportunity. The other way to break patterns is through flow states. And so, and flow states occur when you are breaking the pattern frequently. So in Muay Thai, you ever find yourself hitting flow states when you're doing Muay Thai?
Yeah, there's been a few days where I was just in it, and I'm like, oh wow, it feels amazing.
So when you get into flow states, there's a requisite amount of skill that's necessary to break into the flow state, and that also what's required is that the challenge isn't so high that it becomes overwhelming. It's that sweet spot. On one side you had overwhelming, on the other side you have boredom, but in the middle is flow state, where you're doing something that's challenging but within your ability, but it's pushing your ability just a little bit. And what's required when you get into that flow state, what you're experiencing are insights, and insights create dopamine hits. And when you start experiencing one insight after another, and you start stacking insights quickly and frequently, that's what creates the feeling of being in a flow state. And this is why they're so addictive. And so this is why people get addicted to rock climbing or surfing or kickboxing, or name any sport, or musicians in jam bands or jazz musicians. They're getting into these flow states. They find a groove and then they're like, oh, I'm gonna change the pattern. So getting into flow states will also help you to do that. And so this is why, you'll find a lot of people get into flow states while running. You'll find a lot of people, again, we go back to Silicon Valley, these executives that are wanting to be really innovative and break frames, because that's what innovation is you got to break the frame and break the patterns, is they'll go on long runs to where they get that runner's high. They'll go on a long bike ride to get that runner's high, because they're able to get into some type of physical flow state, and then their mind starts having those eureka moments. And so that's another way to break the frame on things. Rarely, when you're in the process of intentionally breaking the frame, rarely can you predict the insight you're going to get. You can't predict the insight you're going to get. You don't know where it's going to come from. So there's a letting go that has to occur. Am I letting go enough to say I'm going to take 10 days off and do a Vipassana? That's a huge letting go for most people, to unplug. I mean, you put your phone away. You leave your phone in your car. It's an unplug. So to answer your question, 72 hours, you could start with that. I find that in Vipassana specifically, in every retreat, it has its own magical moment. Around everybody reports this. Around day 7 is a massive breakthrough. And a lot of people, I didn't experience this because I've done a lot of work leading up to it. It wasn't taking a retreat and diving into my psyche was nothing new by the time I went. But people were quitting left and right. People did not. The crowd thinned out over the 10 days, and a lot of people, at the end of it, you can talk on the last day. You can talk to everybody. How was it for you? And those are really fascinating conversations because you end up with stories about all these people because you haven't talked to them at all for 10 days. And so the mind does interesting things, and you talk to them and they don't sound anything like you imagine they sound, and so on and so forth. But yeah, most people, they say, hey, around day 7, I felt like I was going to break. It was incredibly difficult. And then I found this insane level of peace I didn't know I could have. And in that peace is when I got the insight, and I go back home and I now have a choice to live differently.
Definitely a great reset and a tool to get more in tune with the body, which I think our second question is for those who haven't gotten in tune with the body, because if we're not able to take 10 days off, if we're not able to practice paying attention to the body, we resort to these instruments, modern day technology, right? Mm-hmm. And this question, we've spoken on the pod a lot about HRV. And this question is based off of should founders track heart rate variability. And the question specifically says, HRV seems popular, but the data fluctuates a lot. How do I actually use it to improve performance? And we've also mentioned how some folks could have a little bit too much anxiety and attention to their wearables, and that attention to the data becomes more of a disservice than a service. So yeah, a little bit of a two-pronged question there.
It's a great idea to track your HRV. I use a Garmin. You use a Whoop, so I'm obviously a believer in it. It's a great calibration tool. So if you're only using HRV to tell you how you should live your life, not a great idea. If you are coupling that with things like meditation and taking a break from it and tuning into your body, and then drawing some correlations between what's the data telling me and how I'm feeling, then it can be a great tool. And that's how I use it. One of the things I really like, I don't know if Whoop does this, but I imagine like most people, if you want to optimize the mind, you should optimize the body. And so one of the Garmin, one of the things it does, because it's made for athletes. They originally got started off as a GPS company, and outdoors men and women were using it. And then it just got more and more sophisticated. And it tells me the 3 different types of energy systems that I've been using. And it tells me how to balance them out. So it's like, oh, you're short on high aerobic training right now. You need to do a high aerobic session. And so I'm always trying to keep my 3 energy systems leveled out, because I'm a general fitness athlete at this point. I'm not trying to be the world's best at like weightlifting, which some of that data wouldn't necessarily be helpful for that type of an athlete. But if I'm just trying to be well-rounded and fit and operate in my life at the highest level, it's a great tool for that. So I do like that about the Garmin. And then the way I'm using HRV is HRV is informing me on how well my nervous system is recovering and how adaptable it is to what's coming. So if my HRV score is really, depending on the platform you're using, low might be a good score, high might be a good score. I think most of them are like geared towards the high side. So, and I don't pay as much attention. It is nice to note like what was my HRV. Mine tracks my HRV overnight. What was my HRV overnight? And if my HRV did really well last night, I could probably push it a little bit harder today. I could do a longer work day. I can do my deadlifts today. I can, but I'm also looking at the other data of like, okay, maybe I need to do a high aerobic session, which means I'm not doing heavy deadlifts. I can just push it there. So whatever workout I'm doing, I can push it really hard on those days. But what we're really looking at is the average of our 7-day score. So if you're over, say, if you're way in the green, which means go, then go ahead and push it, and then watch what happens over time, and you'll start seeing it wave. But if you're in the green, means go. If you're in the yellow, if you're in the middle zone, that 80% rule comes in really, really handy. And if you're in the red, it's time to deload. On those days, I stretch. I do like a 10-minute warm up, and then I stretch, and I go for a 30-minute walk, and that is it. And so, I think that the Joe Rogans of the world can throw people off, because Joe will say, no matter what, I get up and I cold plunge and I do my 100 push-ups and 1,000 kettlebell swings and this and that. Remember, Joe is on testosterone. He has world-class medical care. The guy is a 100 millionaire. He has made more money than he'll ever spend, and he can afford all of these things, and he's overriding his system in a lot of ways. So does it allow him to show up and for his job and do an excellent job? Yeah, for sure. What's going to be the toll of that over his entire lifetime? I don't know. We'll find out. He looks pretty good for his age. He's doing a good job. He's very sharp. I do attribute that to the, all the peptides and all that, and all those protocols for sure. But I personally find that when I dip my toes into that realm and I start overriding the system, my empathy goes down, my emotional intelligence goes down, and I value that much higher than being able to be at peak levels every single day of my life. And so, but yeah, that's pretty much how I use HRV. And, pay attention to the things that lower it, pay attention to things that make it go higher. If I drink like 3 times a year. If I drink, my HRV is going to take a dump. I'll smoke a little bit of weed a couple times a month. I know that my HRV is not going to be great the next day. There's things like that. If I stay up late watching TV, it's not going to be great. So track what it is, understand what your goal is, and adjust from there.
I'm with you on the getting off the drinks. I haven't quit drinking alcohol, but I just stepped away from it while training for the High Rocks. I took on the identity of a hybrid athlete. I'm doing athlete things. I haven't missed it, but I have seen my HRV increase as I've gotten away from indulgences, focus more on my sleep. I'm still working on that sleep aspect, man. That's my biggest challenge, but those have been practices that have helped me find more regulation. Obviously, with the increased cardio, the long runs that I've taken has helped as well for me to really find some of the benefits. Jumping towards our last question here as we come to the end of the podcast, and this puts a bow on everything we just spoke about, whether it's understanding when we need rest or the macro versus micro resets, using HRV as a calibration tool. This last question comes from High Performance Men subreddit on how to sync mind, body, and performance. And the question is, I've optimized my routine, but I still feel disconnected. How do you integrate nervous system awareness into daily life without overcomplicating it, right? Something you said before we hit record is you get the complicated, you make it simple. I think this is a perfect toss-up for that, for folks who are probably going down that route.
Routine can be, going back to our first question, routine is a great way to make the nervous system feel safe and for the emotional body to feel safe. And so I'm definitely a creature of routine. I love it. I'm up at a certain time. I'm in my gym at a certain time. I have my supplement stack that I'm doing. I have I have my stacks. We call this show Full Stack for a reason. I love stacking stuff. That means I take one thing that works and I combine it with another thing that works, and then next thing I know, 1+1 = 5. And if I can stack a bunch of things, then that's fantastic. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your routine is to break the routine in order to optimize. And so if you find yourself getting stagnant in your optimization, it's time to take a break from some things. Like I haven't been in the sauna or done a cold plunge in 6 months. And that used to be like a 3-day-a-week type of thing for me. So
I was going to ask if it's because it's the summer months, because I have the old school ice barrel. And in the summer, man, if you ever melt $40, just buy a whole bunch of ice, put it in the ice barrel, and it's gone by the time you're done plunging.
Melt $40. I love it.
But in the winter, free ice barrel season, I just got to get a chiller. But I mean, dialing it all in, the theme and the trend here goes back to the answer of the first question. And it's really understanding our bodies. And I've been reading up and doing my research and understanding more of the nervous system. And what you said before this question, or really off the bat, was routine is a great way to make the nervous system feel safe.
Yeah.
And as we talk more and more about the subject, the topic, as I learn more and more about it, that safety aspect, that regulation aspect is really the cheat code to your performance. This podcast, Full Stack Podcast, is your cheat code to performance. Ladies and gentlemen, you found the right spot. Welcome. But that's the answer to the question, and exactly what you're saying. Hey, if your routine has become so stagnant, the best approach is to break it. And it's right back to where we started with that reset, whether it's micro or macro. Sounds like a macro reset will allow you to get out of the forest or get out of the trees and see the forest for what it really is, so you can better assess and make the adjustments there.
There's a couple things that come to mind. One is zooming out. We talked about this on a previous show where I talked about the different seasons. So spring and summer, my routine is my morning routine includes a workout. In the fall and winter, my morning routine is not a workout. It's stretch, move, get some red light, go for a walk, and then I work out later in the afternoon, in the evening. And so I naturally do that. I'm following the seasons because in Texas, I train in an outdoor. My garage is not air conditioned. I like to have natural light in there. So I open it up, and in the summer it's too damn hot to work out in the middle of the day or later on. 5 p.m. is not a good time to work out. Too much sweat. I can't even hang on to my kettlebells. So I have to knock it out in the morning before it gets too hot. And then in the fall and winter, I could work out in the morning, but I find that for some reason, if I've been working out in the mornings a lot, working out in the afternoon and splitting up, because I'm doing physical activity in the morning. It's not like I'm just going straight to the couch or my desk. Breaking that up and saying I got 1 hour to this self-care thing where I'm stretching and doing some light movement and breath work and walking. But in the afternoon, I then go do my workout. My body feels really damn good when I have an hour of movement in the morning, an hour in the afternoon. I feel a lot looser versus just packing it in 2 hours at one time. So that's an example of how to routinely break up your routine, but also going and doing a reset, doing a retreat where your normal things are not available and they're asking you to be somewhere at a time where you normally still be doing your morning routine, but you're doing something else, is a great way to break those patterns and then reassess. My routine, if you were to follow me from year to year, it would rhyme, but it wouldn't repeat.
Oh, we could end it right there. It would rhyme, but it wouldn't repeat the routine that you should be following yourself. Rhyme, but don't repeat. We covered a lot today, Mike. Just kind of going the gambit. You started off saying you like to be world class in whatever you do. And something tells me the audience is the very same way. If you want to be world class, the second half of that piece is you're going to want to enjoy what you're doing because of the amount of work it's going to take to get to that point. Optimize what you're doing and then ask what you're doing, right? If you're asking if you should take a break or if you're being lazy, that's probably because you're not paying close attention to yourself, to your body. So recognize if you're optimizing what you're doing or if you're asking if what you're doing is important in the first place. Something else that I picked up on from what your description laid out was a lot of folks, especially in Silicon Valley, who are finding these hacks to white knuckle through something that's out of alignment. It's the concept of have, do, be versus be, do, have, right? Instead of when I have this, I'll do that, to be this, be it now. So you do that and then you have it. Again, going into that change. Your reset, is it a micro reset? You go from meditating 5 minutes to 10 minutes, or is it a macro 10-day Vipassana retreat where you're not talking? And when you get past day 7, stand by for that breakthrough. But again, you have to go through it in order to get the benefits. Out of touch with your body. If you're out of touch with your body, that's a great way to do it. And then understanding whether it's the mini reset, after the mini reset, what felt familiar, journaling on that. Try locking in for an hour, see how you feel. If you're tired, maybe it's time to take the rest of the day off. And again, Mike's 80% rule. Don't give 100% every single day. That's where the diminishing returns come into play. Break the pattern. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your routine is to break it. And you're not dying. It's just change. It's going to feel like dying, but it's just change. That's all it is. And HRV is a great calibration tool, but you don't want to live and die by it. And if you want to optimize the mind, optimize the body, because routine is a great way to make the nervous system feel safe. And when your nervous system is regulated, you feel safe, you optimize, you are at your highest potential, you are operating, and you are living a full stacked life. If you want to learn more, be sure to check out the school community where we talk about this and so much more. That's Mike. I'm Ted. Thanks for checking out the Full Stack Response. We'll catch you guys next time.